Hello everybody. I want to get into this video about the UN warning that during this century, or my bad, the next 5 years, the global temperatures could rise 1.5 degrees, which is insane because that's a crazy temperature rise in just 5 years for a global temperature rise. So without further ado, I'm going to play the video and let's get into it.
As you said, we know that the climate is still heating, and we know that that's largely driven by fossil fuels, and the impacts it's had we see almost daily by this point in terms of floods and heat waves around the world. We also have, as you said, this Paris Climate Agreement, and the key target within that was to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And all countries agreed that's a really crucial benchmark for being able to protect huge swathes of the planet. Now, despite that agreement, emissions are still going up. And in a new report today, the UN said just how little room for maneuver we have left and what that will mean for the next few years. Deluge and devastation in northern Italy today. Scenes from a climate in crisis, this latest disaster already claiming at least 8 lives, and cancelling the weekend's F1 Grand Prix, whose racetrack is now underwater. This just days after a deadly cyclone hit Myanmar on Sunday, residents here picking through wreckage of environmental breakdown, which world leaders say is a top priority, but is more chaotic by the year. Floods, typhoons, extreme heat, extreme side effects of the burning of fossil fuels. And a UN agency today gave its grim diagnosis for the next 5 years, saying the world is now likely to, temporarily at least, breach the crucial 1.5 degree goal of the Paris Climate Agreement, and that one of those years is almost certain to be the hottest ever.
During the coming 15 to 20 years, we estimated that might be more the permanent feature of climate, and actually there's no return back to the good old days because we already have such a high concentration of carbon dioxide.
Exceeding 1.5 degrees for 1 year would not mean that Paris climate target is broken. It would be temporarily nudged by a natural climate phase called El Niño, the heating of sea surface temperatures above the equatorial Pacific, so powerful it heats the whole world and interrupts its delicate weather systems.
This happens to be a very sensitive region as well, in that there are connections to many other parts of the world, and it affects rainfall and temperatures across the globe.
El Niño emerges every few years. The last, in 2016, brought the hottest year ever. But now, before the next arrive, bringing more heat, Canada already burns and swelters as wildfires spread across Alberta. And scientists say that even El Niño, the largest naturally occurring climate phase of the past few thousand years, is dwarfed by the impact burning fossil fuels has had in just a few hundred. Now, it's really important to underscore that temporarily breaching this 1.5C threshold is not the same as the Paris target being broken. That is about a long-term average, and all the UN are saying today is that the next few years, because of this additional impact of El Niño, it could just tip over it slightly. Now, it's still important for 2 reasons. One, even a temporary breaching of that target still brings devastating consequences. If you think to the heat we had in the UK even last year, and that wasn't during an El Niño phase. So the UN is saying with El Niño, it's going to get much worse in the next few years. And secondly is almost what this report tells us, just how close we are to not actually keeping our long-term targets. And they are targets which the countries came together and said are crucial to protecting large swathes of the planet.
Here, the UN is saying that it'll be a 3-degree rise within the century. But if you're looking at their math, it actually could be a 3-degree rise within a decade. Because they said it'll be 1.5 in 5 years. If it actually goes through like that, that means this 3-degree rise they keep referring to actually will happen by 2030 or 2040. which I hope isn't the case, but the fact that the UN is warning about it should concern a lot of people, because Bill Gates was warning about a virus that not only did kill a lot of people, but we also had to take a certain medicine for the virus. And all I'm saying is that the fact that these people are talking about this 3-degree rise in the temperature, global temperature, I don't necessarily think climate change is fake. I don't think it isn't real. There's something that UN is trying to prepare humans for. Because technically, the Earth does get extremely hot. When the Earth was first formed, it was way hotter than it currently is. So the Earth technically does go through phases where it does get hot. And basically, the UN is just saying that could happen. And if it does happen, probably won't be very good. Now, the second reason we're talking about this is because we know these people want to destroy our environment. We know that they fund these corporations that produce all of this greenhouse effect, and then they try to gaslight everyone else into thinking that it's us producing all of this excess energy and waste. When the truth of the matter is that large corporations, or corporations in general, produce more waste than an individual does. Now, the other reasons we want to get into this is because Agenda 2030 was constructed and designed, where they pretend that they're combating climate change. They pretend that they're combating the heating up of the planet. They pretend that they're combating the judgments of God when they fall on the earth, when in reality, they essentially caused all of it to happen. That is what UN is doing. They're warning that our planet could potentially get destroyed because they know everything they're doing could potentially bring the judgments of God on the planet.